Developers have donated their time and resources to create the app, which will be available in the 5 most spoken languages in Houston. And if you have not already, please report your damages to FEMA. It is true that in order to receive FEMA assistance, at least one person in your household will have to have a Social Security number. If you do not have anyone in your household with a Social Security number, we will still ask that you reach out to the Red Cross and utilize the services that are available to help you get back on your feet. If your home was damaged and you need assistance removing wet sheetrock, please call Crisis Cleaner. Again, if your home was damaged and you need assistance removing wet sheetrock, please call Crisis Cleaner. But again, I want to emphasize that if you are living in the city of Houston and you were impacted by the storms of Hurricane Harvey, the rain, and you're needing help, you're needing assistance on any level, or if you're feeling victimized by people in this city, I encourage you to reach out to us. Certainly reach out to me as the mayor of the city of Houston, and we will be there for you. At this time, I would like to ask Senator Sylvia Garcia to say a few words. And Senator, if you don't mind, if you can also kind of repeat some of the things that I have said. Every word. Thank you. And then we'll come back with some comments with respect to TMO. Okay. Get this out your way.
Thank you, Mayor, but I will start with English first and just a few words to add what the Mayor has said. During these incredibly hard times for our community, it's important for everyone to know that there is help out there. You are not alone, and you do not have to go through the physical destruction and emotional distress brought on by Harvey alone. We are here to help you. Please file for FEMA as soon as possible and document your damage. Take pictures. I can tell you, I personally videotaped the damage in my house yesterday with 2 different cameras just to make sure that one of them worked. You do not have to wait for FEMA or your insurance adjusters to come inspect the damage. Take pictures. Document, document, document. Living in unsafe conditions can cause more damage, not just to your homes, but more importantly, to your health and that of your family. No one will be asking you for papers or any documentation on your immigration status, so don't be afraid to reach out. We are all here to help you. Please reach out to all your elected officials, many of them here standing today, and to your people at church who know best in your neighborhood. Many from TMO and other faiths are here today. Reach out to them today. In my office, we've set up a hotline for this very purpose. You can call 832-915-0499 or email harveyhelpline@gmail.com. We will be there to help you. Harvey has impacted all of us. We're all in this together, and we will recover and rebuild because we are Houston Strong. Como mis amigos han dicho, durante estos tiempos difíciles para nuestra comunidad, es importante que nuestra gente sepa que estamos aquí para ayudarles. No están solos y no tienen que sufrir la destrucción de sus casas y la angustia personal que ha traído el huracán Harvey. Estamos aquí para ayudarte. Por favor, apliquen con FEMA y documenten sus daños. No tienen que esperar hasta que FEMA venga a hacer una inspección y no tienen que esperar seguridad si tienen seguridad. Pueden tomar fotos. Viviendo bajo estas condiciones no es muy peligroso para su casa, pero también para su salud y la salud de su familia. Nadie les va a pedir sus papeles. No tengan miedo de pedir ayuda. Por favor, llamen a los oficiales que están aquí con nosotros hoy por la mañana o el oficial cerca de ustedes. Si no tienen el teléfono o no saben a quién llamar por información. Mi oficina tiene una línea de servicio dedicada para darle información de FEMA, de su dueño, si tiene problemas con el dueño de su casa, si usted es un rentero, cuestiones de construcción de su casa, si necesitan muebles donativos o cualquier cosa, llamen a 832-915-80499 o manden un correo electrónico a harveyhelpline@gmail.com. Mi oficina estará allí para ayudarles. Huracán Harvey hizo mucho daño y tuvo gran impacto en toda la área. Estamos juntos aquí para luchar con ustedes y sabemos que Houston tiene mucha fuerza. Muchísimas gracias.
Thank you, Senator. I also have with me representatives from Texas Metropolitan Organization, TMO, who's joining us to address renters' rights. And before I call on Reverend Gomez, let me just say this. Over half of our citizens reside in rental housing. Many of these residents live in units and communities that have sustained substantial damage as a result of the flood waters that have ravaged our city. I know many landlords are doing everything they can to contact and accommodate displaced residents. To those apartment owners, landlords that are doing an excellent job, being sensitive to their tenants, working with them, I want to say thank you. I strongly urge property managers and owners to continue to be as sensitive and flexible as possible with residents given the gravity of the current situation and circumstances. Particularly, I urge landlords to show flexibility by waiving or delaying late fees for at least 1 month, a 1-month grace period, to help ease the financial burden many residents are already facing due to the storm, and by offering longer notice periods to vacate to the extent practicable when forced to terminate leases due to uninhabitability. Landlords of units that have been substantially damaged have given termination notices to some residents. If we determine that any terminations were done improperly or unnecessarily, we will take all necessary measures to protect the rights of those tenants, especially if landlords or apartment owners have accepted, for example, September rent and then forcing tenants out. For me, that's the equivalent of theft. And I certainly will want to work with the Harris County DA's office to prosecute them if they take the rent and then force people out, or if they take the rent and are not moving forward to make the necessary repairs. We are not going to tolerate anybody in this city being victimized because they may be poor, or because they may be undocumented, or because they may not speak the language. We expect people to treat people right with dignity and respect. And I will not hesitate to call people out if they are victimizing any Houstonian that exists in our city. This is not the time when we need to be insensitive to the needs of people within our city because of their social economic status, or because of the language they speak, or because of where they may come from. None of those factors matter to us at the city of Houston. And so I am asking apartment owners to please be sensitive. I'm asking that you provide the grace period and let us work together as we have done up to this point in time. Work together to move forward with dignity and respect for everyone that live within our city. That said, although these lease terminations may upset some residents, we don't want residents to live in uninhabitable conditions. And so we want to be sensitive to that. One of the reasons why we set up the Relief Fund is to address the needs of Houstonians and even people in Harris County when their needs may not be met by FEMA at all, but they have needs nonetheless. Those dollars will flow through nonprofits to assist to meet the needs of individuals that live in our city. And so that is another avenue that will be coming available and will come online very, very, very soon. At this point, let me call on Reverend Gomez from TMO to address this situation. Oh, but you clap for Reverend Gomez. I didn't get a clap at all. But Reverend Gomez,
Thank you.
he comes today, but not without his granddaughter.
That's right. Thank you. Thank you. Good morning, everyone, and thank you for having us here. My name is Reverend Ed Gomez. I'm the vicar of St. Paul, San Pablo Episcopal Church on Park Place Boulevard, not far from our hobby airport that was flooded out. So, Mayor Turner, first of all, I want to really thank you for all the efforts and the tireless work that you and the city have done with also Tom McCaslin and everyone. Senator, thank you for being here. It has been a heroic effort, and we're aware of that. We're aware of the compassionate care. We saw you as the days of the storm getting more tired and more puffy-eyed during that, but being compassionate and reaching out to everyone, all Houstonians. And that for us as faith leaders and all for us working in these communities that are working poor, that are underserved and under-resourced, has been really, really an impactful thing that we have found. So thank you so much for that effort. I'm here again to bring forth what the mayor has underscored and the support that he has given for us, for renters, many of whom have been unemployed. The brunt of the storm often hits people of color, people that are under-resourced in these areas, especially near our churches and in the area of the south part of Houston and other areas as well. And what we have battled with and what we have found after the flooding and after the rains went and the sun came out was that many people still today remain unemployed. And they are forced or being threatened by eviction to pay their rents. Many today, I'm waiting for 3 more checks to go to one apartment complex on Broadway to get those checks before the 14th. Because today is the 14th and by 5 o'clock, they'll be assessed another $50. I have personally spoken with some landlords. Some, when I wear the collar and show up, they'll be amenable, they'll help, they'll give me another week, and they have been gracious. Others have taken a proactive high road, and they have already, before anyone has asked, has already said, don't worry about it, pay me when you can, but for sure by the 23rd or close to the end of the month, and removing all penalties. However, some large landowners and complex owners and those that are management companies have a system that automatically charges $25 and then $50 and keeps on adding those fees and those late fees. And we'll continue to work to inform your office and to inform your team to who these people are, to see if there's some way to reverse the systemic problem. And that way we can get, even though the person working there may be a compassionate, may try to use their influence, the property manager or the leasing office person, the system does not allow them to do that. And that's what one property manager told me today at a Broadway apartment. So these are some of the issues that we continue to face, some of the challenges that we continue to have. Just yesterday, again, in our food pantry that in our church, we had a young man who works in the refineries. He makes decent money. He works in the neighborhood, has a young child, and he cannot pay his rent. The refineries have been shut down for now 3 weeks. Especially the lower skilled labor, those that do not have those jobs cannot meet those payments. So we're asking not just for a handout, but a hand up to help these people and the landlords all together, like your team in Houston and your city management. Everyone has worked together, firefighters, law enforcement. Everyone has come together, not looking at whether you're documented or undocumented, whether you speak one language or another, but they have all made that effort, and we're inviting those landlords who have not done so to come on board and get into the spirit of generosity that has been so impactful and the beautiful things that we have seen through that giving in this city during this time. Houston is strong. Houston is powerful. And the true character, the measure of our character will be found by how we treat our most vulnerable. And now is the time in these areas, these most vulnerable areas, to treat those individuals with that loving kindness and that compassion. So thank you once again, Mayor, for your compassion, your work, your tireless effort, the City Council, and everyone that has been involved in this effort. God bless you.
Thank you. Right. Thank you. I want to thank Reverend Gomez and TMO. I will say that, and I certainly will ask, I want to thank, number one, the Houston Apartment Association for having worked with us, and they have worked with us in a very positive way, so I want to acknowledge that. For those other individual apartments where they are concerned about extending the grace period, and I hope they will all at least do a grace period for the entire month of September. And then if there are issues, work with us at the City of Houston and with others, I think we may be able to find ways to accommodate their interests and the interests of tenants. We will look to find ways to work with them. We're kind of on the road to recovery, and it's going to take a little while to work a lot of these things out. But I would certainly ask all apartment complexes to provide a grace period, at least for this month, the month of September. And then if there are exigent circumstances that exist as to why they may have a difficulty doing that, if they will contact the City of Houston, contact Tom McCaslin with the Housing Authority, and we will do our best to try to work with them, or at least get a third party to assist that will keep them, make them to some degree as whole as possible. Having said that, Tom, why don't you come up? You've been working on this issue quite a bit, and make whatever comments you so desire.
Thank you, Mayor. I think most of the comments have already been made, but I just want to reemphasize, thank you so much to every landlord who is working with us, who's working with the residents. We deeply appreciate it. And for those who are not yet doing so, we welcome you to come in. But for those who aren't, for those who are abusing their tenants, for those who are treating tenants unfairly, the full force of the city's power is going to be zeroed in on you, and we'll do everything we can to protect the residents that are there. And I will be showing up personally, as I have already done at these apartments, to make sure that people are protected in these situations. Thank you to the mayor for his full support, and for everyone up here. We'll be working with you to make sure the residents get what they need, but balancing the interest of the landlords as well, working together as a community. Thank you.
And then lastly, let me ask, Councilman McGagos, let me ask you just to make some comments. Park Place is covering in your area. If you want to make some comments, and then Ana Hernandez, let me ask you to follow him.
Thank you, Mayor. First of all, I want to thank the director for working out there in the community. Like the mayor had mentioned, the Park Place area, there's quite a few apartments. Unfortunately, the first floor apartments, many of them did get flooded out. I'm glad to know that we are all working together to make sure that we address this issue. And like the mayor stated, there's no need to be fearful in regards to being asked for your documentation. No necesitan tener miedo, no van a preguntar por sus documentos. Si necesitan ayuda, por favor, hagan la ayuda que se necesita. La ciudad estamos aquí para ayudarles. So gracias. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you. And State Representative Ana Hernandez.
Thank you, Mayor, and good morning, everyone. I speak English, but I'll be making my comments in Spanish for our Spanish-speaking community. And we want to thank the mayor for having this event today to make sure that we express to the Spanish-speaking community, to the immigrant community, not to be fearful, to seek help. Buenos días, yo soy la diputada estatal Ana Hernández y estamos aquí hoy con el alcalde Sylvester Turner para mandarle un mensaje a la comunidad hispana, a la comunidad inmigrante, que no tengan temor en acudir y a buscar ayuda, que aquí está el alcalde, que ha sido un líder con compasión. Hay líderes de la comunidad de fe, líderes de la comunidad activista, también el director de vivienda que ha dicho que no tengan temor. Si lo están maltratando, el dueño del propietario, el dueño del apartamento, lo está maltratando, que no tengan temor, que la ciudad está aquí para ayudarles, que hay recursos para todos los que han sido damnificados por la inundación, no importa su estatus migratorio, aquí estamos para ayudarles. Muchas gracias al alcalde, a todos los del concilio y a la ciudad de Houston por su apoyo.
Thank you so much. We'll take any questions any of you may have. Any questions?
Mayor,
yes, Rebecca.
There's a huge issue here in apartments where repairs and late fees and rent may not all be lining up. But in place, there are a ton of apartments around the city where conditions are simply not livable. And so late fees, rent due dates were not. People need a place to live. And this was already a city that was in an affordable housing crisis, and we just saw a whole lot of those units wiped offline. What are you thinking in terms of the city's response to these tens of thousands of families who need housing?
Well, number one, housing is I have two number one priorities, if that makes sense. One happens to be housing, and the other one happens to be as a result of the storm debris removal. But housing is up at the top of the list. We are identifying every available apartment unit that exists in this city. to try to, where people may be living, for example, in an apartment that's not habitable, to try to make another choice available to them. That's one of the reasons why the focus is where people that are in single-family houses. The rapid repair housing program is critical, and we're trying to make it where people can remain in their homes, so we don't add to that population that's needing assistance. So we're working on that on multiple levels. In the long term, we need to build more affordable housing. That's one of the reasons why we delayed the item that was on the agenda last week, dealing with the TERS funding for housing, to assess what our current situation may be, because we may need to modify that. But we need more housing. In the long term, apartment complexes, for example, that are built in the floodplain, like in the Greens Point area, we need to rethink that strategy. And quite frankly, we've already in conversation with FEMA, because it may not be the best thing to rebuild in those locations. Otherwise, we'll find ourselves in those conditions again. So we need to build affordable housing, but we need to also be very strategic in where those houses, multifamily units or single-family houses, are being built. Otherwise, we find ourselves repeating it over and over again. But the goal is to build as many housing units, single-family and multifamily, as we can moving forward. Can't undo what the lack of up to this point, but certainly as we move forward, we need to build as many units as we can to make them available so that the city of Houston can continue to be affordable. But for now, for individuals that may find themselves in apartment units that are not habitable, we're simply going to have to, we're working, scrambling to find alternatives, for them.
Right. I mean, if you're a family who needs a place to stay tonight, in the next week, in the next 2 weeks, before a lot of this money, federal and local money, is able to be deployed, what would you say the options are?
Well, in some cases, we're able to find other apartment units for them. In another case, for example, we're finding hotels or extended stays, for them. Tom, you may want to elaborate, be even more detailed than that.
The mayor is absolutely right. There's no one single answer, and some of this is going to have to be on a case-by-case basis. So if you're qualified for FEMA temporary shelter assistance, that's the first option. If you're not qualified for that, or if you have already moved on to individual assistance, getting out to the available units that we've identified is another option. Many people are going to be doubled up with family and friends, and if you have family and friends and you're able to accept them into your home, we have to be doing that. And then we know that there are going to be people who are going to need a shelter in place, and the key there is making sure that if you're sheltering in place, whether it's an apartment complex or a single family home, that it's a safe place to shelter. But it's going to take all of these options for us to make sure that we have safe, affordable homes for people to live in.
Okay. But I do want to underscore the fact, housing and availability supply is limited. That is true. But we're going to work to try to do what we can to make sure that people are providing suitable housing. But it's going to be tight in the short run. I have fully acknowledge that. Yes, sir.
Mayor, there's going to be an immediate need at the GRB shelter. A couple questions. How many people are there now? When is it slated to close? And is the city ready to accommodate these people when the shelter doors close?
Well, and we've been working on that plan for the last 2 weeks. And City Council voted on an initiative on yesterday. The number there as of yesterday was like 1,050. So that number has gone down from at its peak of a little more than 10,000, now down to 1,050. Roughly 2/3 of that population either had an apartment or they were living with someone in an apartment. And then 1/3 of that population were people who were homeless before the storm erupted, and they sought shelter at the George R. Brown. The funding, the financing package to house that population is right around $9 million. That's what we dealt with on yesterday's City Council, with much of that being paid for by FEMA, and then with the Red Cross possibly contributing up to $2 million. The goal is, again, we've identified a number of apartment units where we're seeking to put a hold on those units to move people, especially with families, into those apartment units. And then we're also working with the facility on Emancipation Avenue that was formerly the Star of Hope, They 2 weeks ago, just before the storm, they moved their people out and placed them in the new housing accommodation off of 288 and Reed Road. And so the plan is to move 300 into that facility. They will be operated by the Star of Hope and the Way Home. We'll be providing the operational services there, and that's up to a number of 300. The remaining, let's say 700 or so, we're hoping to place them in apartment units that we have identified. The goal is to bring that shelter to an end no later than the 16th, if not before. You cannot keep people, for example, in that type of a shelter too long. It doesn't serve anyone's purpose, doesn't serve their purpose well, and doesn't serve our needs well at all. So that's the plan.
Saturday midnight then?
Let me not hold you that, because we're not going to just go to people and say it's Saturday midnight and now you're out the door. So we're not going to do that. But there is a constructive plan that's where the funding sources have been identified. Let me also say we've been working with the Houston Endowment as well, where we've identified the funding sources. You're talking about a transitional housing program of about $9 million to provide people with housing. The goal is to put people in housing in a better position than where they currently are, and in many cases better than they were before the storm, because 1/3 of those individuals that who are currently there were homeless prior to the storm, and the goal now is to at least, at a minimum, place them in a shelter.
So you're comfortable that everything's in the works, that the doors aren't going to shut?
I can assure you everything that we can do is being done. We fully recognize that now we are dealing with the most difficult population. And just bear in mind, at its peak, there were more than 10,000 people that were in the George R. Brown. Many of them, on their own, have transitioned out. And so now the number is down to 1,050. And, of course, when you get to that population, as we found out even last year, becomes the most difficult population, okay? And I won't say many, but some may not even find the options that we make available. They may not be acceptable for them, okay? But you can't stay at the George R. Brown forever, okay? So if we provide you with a housing option, but you don't want that housing option, it doesn't mean we didn't provide you with a housing option that we were willing to pay for, okay? But we can't force people to accept a housing option. We can't do that. So it's you do the best you can. But what I can say, any option that we make available has already, at least for the first 6 months, will be paid for, not by them, not by anybody that's there, but between FEMA, the Red Cross, and Houston Endowment and others, they will be paid for at least 6 months. And that's what we voted on yesterday at City Council. And that's what I'm continuing to negotiate. Yes, sir. Sure.
What can the city do legally to go after these landlords who refuse to comply with the request for a grace period to waive the fees to go easier on the victims? And two, have you heard anything, or is there any plan in place to bring any sort of trailer scheme or otherwise to help the house?
No, we have not. We've not had a conversation with respect to bringing trailers in. That situation kind of worked in. They did that in Louisiana. Don't necessarily think that's the best solution for Houston, Texas. And a lot of problems ensued from those trailers. So don't think that's the best solution here. With respect to, and I lost my train of thought initially. Okay, let me just say that, let me deal with the case, for example, where an apartment may have accepted tenants the lease payments for the month of September and not doing anything and then forcing them out. Now, for me, in my estimation, that's like theft. You take their money, you're not making any repairs, and you're telling them to leave, but you're not refunding. And so we certainly are going to be very aggressive on dealing with that and work with all of the legal partners in trying to address that. My hope is, and the appeal that we're making to landlords, is for everybody to recognize that this was an unprecedented storm, unprecedented rainfall, and we just need to work together. We've done that exceptionally well in the city of Houston. We need to continue that spirit even right now. So we're asking landlords, and I want to applaud the Houston Apartment Association because they've worked well with us. But I do want to ask all of the apartment owners or the landlords to provide at least a grace period for the month of September. to allow people to somewhat get back on their feet. At least allow that period of time. That's my request. That's all of our requests. I think it's morally the right thing to do. You may not legally be required to do it, but it's morally the right thing to do, and quite frankly, it's the Houston way. So that's my hope. For those who, for example, are not are forcing people out, just terminating their notices, then we'll take a very careful look at that. And I'll deal with city legal and some others to see whether or not we can assist and come to the rescue of tenants that find themselves victimized.
Do you know specifically what the city can do to those who refuse to comply?
Well, certainly, I think if you are just forcing people out, number one, let me just say, when you sign a lease, that is a contract, okay? And so I know the Lone Star and there was another, the Legal Aid are working with tenants to better represent them on their rights. The lease becomes the contract. And if the contract is being violated, certainly they have a claim. And many times people simply don't know what their legal rights are. And so we are referring them to some legal aid, some lawyer that'll be more than happy to represent them on their rights. But to the extent, for example, we just found that if there's some complex that's totally been insensitive, not operating in the Houston way, then I don't have any problems with calling somebody out on that end. Look, all these cameras here, nobody just wants to be in the news just for the sake of being in the news, unless y'all are applauding us for what we're doing. Hell, I know I don't like being in the news if you're hitting me hard, So I think we all can play a part in causing or encouraging people to do the right thing, even if they're not legally required.
Mayor.
Who's next? Yes, ma'am, and then I come to you.
So obviously the shelters have tripled out quite a bit. How many of those people, and in general, just across the city of Houston, have been helped through the temporary housing vouchers? And as you indicated, with the vacancies being limited, should we run into a shortage, is relocation outside the city a possibility?
Well, we've already, even for the people that are in the shelters and others, we've identified how many units have been identified, apartment units that we've identified?
Over 2,500.
Yeah, there are over 2,500 apartment units that we've identified that we're trying to just put a hold on for people that are existing in the shelters and for people who may be living in apartments, for example, that may not be habitable. So we're assisting on that end, establishing what that inventory may be. With regards to, for example, the people at George R. Brown, I think we have a pretty good housing plan for everyone that's at the George R. Brown. But again, just because we have what we consider a reasonable housing plan for people doesn't necessarily mean that the people there are going to accept it. They may not like the choice, okay? But but there's a housing plan for everyone there. With respect to others in the city, they may find themselves in an apartment that's not habitable, or even in a home that's not habitable. We certainly will do everything we can to try to find where a unit may be available, whether it's in the city of Houston or even outside the city of Houston. But we're trying to keep people close to where they are, close to where their schools are. And that's why the goal is, as quickly as possible, to engage in this rapid repair program or home direct assistance to homeowners in order to get their houses at least habitable while they do the more expanded repairs. So there are a lot of moving parts all at the same time. Okay? Yeah. Sure. Reverend Gomez.
Yes.
Could you give us some examples of abusive or unfair measures that you're aware of? And also, if you could remind me your first name, please?
Ed Gomez, yeah. Yes, I could give you quite, how much time do we have now? We have quite a bit. Just one woman, these are just within the last 2 days. She's been trying to contact her landlord at her apartments because she has a leak in her roof. And that has not been fixed. They're not even answering. And that's the issue. Another woman also has her carpet that there was rain damage in it. And the landlord says, sure, we'll move you. We have an empty unit, but she has to pay $800. She cannot pay $625. Where is she going to come up with $800? Her and her husband have both been unemployed since Thursday before the storm. and so they cannot find that issue. Another woman also had mold issue in her apartment, and that also was unresolved, and she cannot move, she cannot do out, and what the landlord is saying, get a hold of FEMA, and they'll take care of that for you. A lot of them are not conscientious people. They're most of the apartments that I'm speaking about are unkept. They're subpar living. Some of them pay high rents for what it is. One of them, it's $625 a month plus then water and garbage, which can be around $650, $670 for a working poor family. That's quite a lot. And then literally it's an efficiency. It's a small box. The air conditioning doesn't work fully. The property's not maintained properly. There's a lot of also issues that are having to do with that.
What can you tell us about evictions? Are there threats to?
Yes, I've had everyone that we have helped with rent through the generosity of Christ Church Cathedral, the Episcopal Diocese of Texas, and Catholic Charities. We get from them their eviction notices. And I tell you, most of the policy goes something like this. By the 3rd, you have to put half your rent and then get a $25 penalty. And by the 14th, which is today, is $50 penalty. And then after that, they're being threatened to be taken to court, by which then they will be charged with the legal fees and with the court fees. That's what the landlords are telling these tenants. Now, some of these are undocumented. They're fearful. They don't feel secure, so they're scrambling around, and that's what we're doing with the charities and Episcopal Diocese, working together to try to get their rents paid so that they... on the way here, I got a call from one of them. When can I get the check? Can I get it? It's by 5 o'clock. Today's the 14th. Okay, and that's not a Broadway apartment.
Mayor,
Can we do one-on-one?
Yeah.
Mayor, does the city have any estimate so far of the number of families who were displaced during Hurricane Harvey? And if not, what efforts are you aware of at the city or other agencies to account for the number of families who were displaced?
That's more for you.
You mean, Rebecca, you mean people who are no longer able to live in their apartments and not able to live in their homes?
People whose homes flooded during Harvey. Does the city have any estimate of the number of people or families who were flooded or had leaks of some sort, had water damage from the hurricane? And is there any effort to assess that?
Yes, Don is out. Every single Department of Neighborhood is out every single day doing that assessment. I mean, just on a rough estimate, we expect about 50,000 structures in the city of Houston, just in the city of Houston alone, and it may be higher than that. But Don is out. The Department of Neighborhood, their inspectors are out every single day making those inspections.
But we still don't know how many.
I can't give you a number right now, but certainly even for purposes of FEMA and as we build to recover, we'll have those stats. Thank you very much. Let me just say to people, please contact us if you run into issues. And then I will say the plan is to activate as quickly as possible the relief fund to work through some nonprofits to assist people as well. Thank you very much.